It was a calm Thursday afternoon in our quiet suburban neighborhood. I had just finished mowing the lawn when I heard shouting near the cul-de-sac. Curious, I walked toward the noise and saw a scene unfolding near Karen's house. Again. Karen, our neighborhood's self-declared security watch, was pointing her phone at a young black woman standing calmly near a porch across the street. "That's not your house. I'm calling 911, Karen barked. The woman, dressed in business casual and holding a brown package, stayed composed. "This is my package. It was delivered here by mistake. I'm just retrieving it." "I don't care what you say," Karen snapped. "You don't live here. That's the Hendersons' place." By now, a few other neighbors were peeking out from behind their curtains. I approached cautiously. "Everything all right here?" I asked. Karen turned to me, eager for backup. "She's stealing someone's package." The woman sighed. "My name's Maya Henderson. I just moved back in with my parents temporarily. They're out of town, and I came to pick up my delivery." I recognized the Hendersons' name. They'd lived here for years, and sure enough, they mentioned their daughter was visiting. Karen clearly didn't put two and two together. The police arrived minutes later, lights flashing. Karen eagerly rushed to them, spinning her version of the story. I pulled one of the officers aside. "Before you do anything, check the name on the package and ask Maya for her ID." He nodded, already suspicious. Karen folded her arms smugly, thinking she'd done her civic duty. But what happened next would flip everything on its head. The officer approached Maya calmly. "Ma'am, can I see some identification, please?" Without hesitation, Maya handed over her ID in the package. The officer glanced at the label first. It clearly read Maya Henderson. Then he checked the ID and raised his eyebrows. "Thank you, Miss Henderson. This matches perfectly," he said, then turned to Karen. "She's not stealing anything. She lives here." Karen's smug expression vanished. "That can't be. The Hendersons are an older couple. She doesn't belong—" The officer cut her off. "She told you she's their daughter. Did you even ask her name before calling 911? Karen stammered. "I didn't have to. I knew something was off." "You knew nothing," Maya said calmly but firmly. "You just saw a black woman near a porch and assumed the worst." By now, a few more neighbors had gathered outside, whispering among themselves. Karen's face reddened. The second officer stepped forward. "Miss Henderson, would you like to file a report? This could be considered a false report based on bias." Maya shook her head. I'm used to people like her. But maybe it's time she learned something." Karen folded her arms again. "I was just being cautious. Anyone would have done the same." "No," I said, stepping forward. "You were being Karen, and you didn't even bother to ask a question before dialing 911. Karen was clearly rattled. For once, she wasn't in control of the narrative, and Maya wasn't backing down. But Maya wasn't done yet. "I'm not pressing charges," she said, her eyes fixed on Karen, "but you might want to reconsider your behavior before it costs you more than just your reputation." The police left. Karen stood there silent, while Maya walked away with her package and her dignity. The following days were a mix of tension and awkwardness. Karen tried to avoid me, her neighbors, and especially Maya, but her behavior had already made waves. Word of her false accusation had spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. People were talking, not just about Karen's mistake, but about how she had acted without thinking. I saw Maya a few times over the next week. She was friendly, calm, and despite what had happened, she didn't seem angry. I couldn't help but admire how she carried herself through the entire ordeal. But I knew there was more to the story. One afternoon, as I was walking to my car, I saw Maya sitting on her porch reading a book. I walked over and sat beside her. "Mind if I join you?" I asked. She looked up and smiled. "Not at all. I could use the company." We sat in silence for a few moments before I spoke again. "You handled that situation with a lot of grace. Not many people would have kept their cool like you did." Maya shrugged, a modest smile on her face. "It's nothing. It's just, people are quick to judge, especially when they don't know the full story. But I've been through worse." I nodded, understanding. "I can imagine. It's one thing to deal with ignorance, but another to be falsely accused like that." She set the book down and turned to me. "It's hard, but I'm learning to let it go. What's worse, though, is how Karen hasn't apologized or even acknowledged what she did. She's still acting like she did nothing wrong. That hit home. Karen's refusal to take responsibility for her actions wasn't just about pride. It was about protecting her fragile sense of superiority. "I'm sorry you had to go through that," I said sincerely, "but don't let it define you. You're not the problem, she is." Maya smiled again. "I know. I've learned not to let people like her dictate my life. I'm going to keep moving forward." But I had a feeling Karen wouldn't be moving forward so easily. The truth had already started to catch up with her. Days turned into weeks, and while Maya continued to go about her business with grace, Karen's life in the neighborhood began to unravel. Her reputation, once that of a vigilant community watchdog, was now that of a woman who had unjustly accused an innocent person of theft. People began to avoid her, whispers following her wherever she went. One evening I saw Karen standing by her front door, talking to a few neighbors. Her usual authoritative stance was gone, replaced by an almost pleading demeanor. I could tell she was trying to justify herself, but the other residents weren't buying it. "She's still blaming you, isn't she?" I said, walking up to Maya, who was watering her plants nearby. Maya looked over at Karen, who was speaking with her hands as if trying to explain herself. "Oh, definitely. She hasn't even apologized to me." I watched for a moment, then turned back to Maya. Maybe it's time someone told her the truth. The full truth. Maya sighed but nodded. "You're right. I've been giving her the space to do the right thing. But she hasn't. I'm done being the bigger person." That evening, Maya walked over to Karen's house. I could see her talking to Karen through the window. Karen's arms were crossed, her head shaking, probably still refusing to admit the gravity of her actions. But Maya didn't back down. After a few minutes, I saw Karen's expression change. It was the first time I had seen her look genuinely sorry. The apology, though reluctant, finally came. "I was wrong," Karen said quietly, her voice carrying through the screen door. "I assumed the worst of you, and I shouldn't have. I'm sorry." Maya nodded, accepting the apology. "It's all right. I just hope you learn from this." Karen stood there for a moment, looking like she was about to say something else. But she didn't. She just turned and walked back inside, leaving Maya standing on the porch, her stance now a little more relaxed. "Did she mean it?" I asked Maya when she returned. "She'll never fully admit it," Maya said, "but at least she said the words. That's something." The weeks following Karen's half-hearted apology felt different around the neighborhood. People still talked about what had happened, but there was a sense of closure now. Karen had made her apology, even if it wasn't as genuine as some would have hoped. But for Maya, that was enough. She didn't need Karen's validation. She had already won by staying calm and dignified through it all. Karen, however, couldn't shake the weight of her actions. She still tried to maintain control of the neighborhood, but it was clear that her power had diminished. No one looked to her for approval anymore, and that, more than anything, seemed to unsettle her. As for Maya, she carried on with her life, unbothered. She spent more time at her parents' house while they were away, and though she kept to herself, there was an undeniable strength in how she moved forward. I saw her walking her dog one evening, a smile on her face as she greeted neighbors with ease. One afternoon, I ran into Karen at the mailbox. She didn't seem as self-assured as before. Her posture slumped in a way I hadn't seen. "I wanted to say," she started, avoiding eye contact, "that I've been thinking about everything. Maybe I did overreact." I raised an eyebrow. "That's progress, Karen." She nodded, looking down at her feet. "I've been trying to change. It's hard for me, you know?" "I think we all have something to learn," I said, my tone softening. "The important thing is how we move forward, not just for ourselves, but for everyone else around us." Karen looked up, a hint of something like regret in her eyes. "Yeah, I guess I've got a lot of work to do." With that, she walked away, and I stood there for a moment, considering how the neighborhood had changed. The situation had been tense, but it had taught us all something important. Actions have consequences, and sometimes it takes facing our own mistakes to grow. Maya, meanwhile, had already moved on. She wasn't interested in holding grudges, only in building a life for herself. And she was doing just that, without letting anyone, especially someone like Karen, define who she was. I smiled to myself as I walked back to my house. Some people might never learn, but Maya, she was already thriving.